your
I got you
email
recorded.
about William Nichols, very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting that you would bring him up.
Yeah, well, his book is very interesting, very good book. It's on
Prove it.
Christian anti-Semitism.
What's the book about?
Christian anti-Semitism. He's the one. Here's the first place I saw somebody express the idea that he thought one of the main reasons for Christians hating Jews is that Christians hate the law, that it's constrictive, it, don't commit adultery, don't steal, don't murder, all these things, and on, and they find it oppressive, and so they can't hate JC because it's off the table. So they turn their hatred toward the ones who brought the law, which is the Jews.
It's interesting you said, Ron, because when David always takes very strong anti-Christian views. And I always thought I was very tolerant. And I always said among all religions, there's the good people, there's the bad people. There's the good people among the Christians, there's the bad people among the Jews, Muslims, Hindus, all of them. So I always take very, very liberal approach. But I saw it more and more. I saw that, like somebody said, Christianity invented Islam. Islam is extension of Christianity. I thought that's completely bizarre. I'll never believe that. And yet, then I start thinking about it. It's sometimes, on the surface, certain things, and it just, come on, it can't be. You find these amazing things.
Well, Islam pulls in stuff from Judaism and Christianity. When they think Jesus is a saint, they think his mother is a saint. A lot of it's very hallucinatory. I mean, crazy mishmash of stuff.
But David was saying more than that. He was saying there was like conscientious effort, like Vatican didn't just evolve. We all know that, of course, Islam took a lot of things from the Christianity and Judaism, obviously, because it's the 7th century. Christianity is 700 before that, and Jews even thousands of years. So obviously, it was an input. We had input from Hinduism too, Jews. Every religion has certain influence by other religions, but I didn't know that Vatican actually to me, always sounded like conspiracy theory, and I'm very skeptical when I see conspiracy theory to that extent. But
I think it's amazing the wonderful relationship between Jews and Christians in the United States. Become very symbiotic.
It's symbiotic, but I'm yet to see Christians in a 300,000 people group marching in any of New York City in defense of Israel. It's one thing to.
No, Lev, the born again Christians, the evangelistic Christians are very pro-Israel. Maybe they're not running around marching because that's not their thing, but they are pro-Israel.
That's a problem. It's very nice they're pro-Israel. I know. Some of my best friends are the born-again Christians. There's no question about it. But it's one thing to be pro-Israel. Another thing is to stay silent. The silence is complacency. I mean, I see 300,000 against Israel marching around. They have no fear to be arrested. Where is all the supporters for Israel? All the so-called
They're not afraid
people?
of being arrested because they're marching in places where the leftists control the government, and the leftists are kissing their butt. They don't want to upset any other leftists, which is their power base. So they just let them do whatever they want.
I get the same view, Reuven, as you do. I always feel like Germans in Germany, and Hitler did it, and hell, I don't know anything about it. You're complacent. People knew what's going on. And today, I'm sorry, I take people not by their religion, but their actions. If you're a very good person, and when the October 7th, Jews were massacred, and you sit silent in Kansas City or in Colorado, and you think, oh, Hamas is really horrible, and you say nothing, you just feel that you're in support of Israel, but don't show it, that means nothing to me. I can feel all I want to feel about Martians, but if I don't do anything about their defense, my internal feelings means nothing. It's hypocrisy. They're either cowards or lazy.
Well, you can understand, it's part of the nature of people who are religious that they feel comfortable with their identity. It's like another Canadian, Marsha McLuhan, said that whenever there's a struggle about identity, there's always violence. And the wokes have a lot of identity problems. They really don't know who the heck they are. They don't have anything solid to base what they believe on. The only thing they have is rallying and screaming, going to marches. It makes them feel more like they're part of something.
I'm not talking
They have a
about
need for it. Whereas people who are generally conservative don't need to go around screaming and yelling because they feel secure in who they are.
They do need to go in screaming. That's the problem. They might be secure, but if your house is on fire and I'm sitting 1 block away and not coming to put it out, but I feel for you. Oh, Ruben's house is on fire. How horrible. I'm not the one who's setting on fire. But if I don't come with a bucket of water and try to help you, my feelings of goodness are nothing. And I think that's what
That's a good
that's how
point.
Americans feel. I think they sit nicely watching
Leif,
TV.
you think, Leif, here's a question. Do you think that the people that are marching, the pro-Palestinian marches, do you think they really care about the Palestinians? I don't think so. I think they just don't like Jews.
Exactly right, Bob. But that's not my problem. I know who the anti-Israel people are. I know exactly who they are. Some of them stupid, like American left. Some of them proactive, like Hamas implants, even American Congress. I know who they are. But I also know who American so-called nice people, who those bad people protesting, walking around and burning things and acting. And the nice people who feel, oh, how horrible. They sit in Kansas City and Colorado and upstate New York and do nothing. They're also guilty. I'm talking about them. If somebody is bad, you don't have to qualify. But if somebody says, listen, I feel so bad for you. It's like walking by the guy who needs money, and you can say, I feel so bad for the guy. Well, did he give him $100? No, but I feel bad for him. That's hypocrisy.
Are you talking about Jews or non-Jews?
I'm talking about non-Jews. There's 300 million people in America.
Leif, when's the last time you were out protesting about the massacres and the dislocations in Sudan?
I was protesting all the time. When I lived in New York, I went to the sign. I went to the
No,
sign to
you
stand.
weren't, Leif.
Yeah, I went to the
You're not
sign to
protesting
sign to Statue of Liberty. I have a picture of that. I went to sign Statue of Liberty and I made a sign and I stood there with the protesting. And it was nothing about the Jews.
What were you protesting?
It was protesting when it was a Cuban guy, kid was hijacked by his father and those Cuban crisis. It was maybe 40 years ago. So, yeah. And, I speak up anytime I can. But my point is there's 300, and this is maybe a good introduction to your talk, Bob, because you talk about American Jews. That's your talk today. My point is very simple. How can I simplify it? There's 5 million Jews in America, roughly. There's 300 million non-Jews. From 500 million Jews, 300,000 of them march in Washington against what Hamas did to Israel. Nice, 305. But they're Jews. Of course they're going to protest. Then from 300 million Americans, how many feel sympathy for the Israel when they massacred? Many, many. How many of them actually protest? How many took a page in the New York Times to say how much dismay? They're silent. There's 300 million so-called nice Christians that are silent. And I condemn them for that. So that gives introduction to your talk today about American Jews in America, Bob.
So here's 3 references to how a Jew should relate to the nation in which they live. This is from from Psalms. It says, the simple believe anything, and the prudent give thoughts to their steps. So the simple are the many who are left behind, such as in the Weimar Republic, or the simple Jews who don't care about what's going on in Israel and don't think it affects them. And they don't pay attention to what goes on in America because they don't think it affects them. But it says in the Psalms, the prudent give thoughts to their steps. And the prudents are those who say, how long can we remain in America? When do we have to pack our bags? And when do we have to be out of here? I'm going to give 2 more references that relate to what I think are how we should interface with America. I say we because I'm here in Florida. This is from Pirkei Avot. Says, keep a distance from an evil neighbor. I'll repeat that. Keep your distance from an evil neighbor. Do not become attached to the wicked, and do not abandon faith in divine retribution. So it says, do not become attached to the wicked. We have to learn to define what's good and bad around us. If someone is openly anti-Semitic, they're wicked. If someone says, your son can dress up as a girl, is that wicked? Does this mean it's a society we shouldn't be associated with? It's a society that we should abandon? If someone says that there's there's equal justice between Hamas and Israel in the United States? Does that mean that they're evil, that we should keep our distance from them? These are questions we have to ask ourselves. Evil is not always that obvious. And again, going back to the Weimar Republic, there was a lot of evil in the Weimar Republic, and the Jewish life in Germany was decaying, but people didn't recognize that it was evil, and that evil was going to descend into a Nazi takeover. This is a quote, and this is my third quote about how Jews might relate to how Jews should interface with the country that they're in. This is from Zechariah, and it says, this is the quote, "Execute judgment of truth and peace in your gates." And it says, execute judgment of truth. Execute is an interesting word. Execute means you should be exactly what Leib is saying. You should be proactive and you should get out and do things. Execute the judgment of truth. Just discussing it doesn't help, but as Leib says, and Zechariah is going to agree with Leib, that you should get out and protest and call your congressman, and that you are, as a Jew, obligated to be active in fighting evil at our gates. I'm just going to mention a couple things about our time in Egypt, because basically I think you guys know all this. Egypt is the paradigm for the entire course of Jewish history. It's Torah teaching us how the nations of the world will treat us. And in fact, it is how the world has treated us through every single conquest and every single empire that we have been involved in. And I'll just mention a couple of small things, and then you guys can take up the discussion. One is a little known fact that Pharaoh was dreaming, and this is in Torah, you might know the lines. Pharaoh was dreaming for 2 years before he became restless enough to try and find out what those dreams were about. And when we say that
He was
Pharaoh
dreaming those same dreams for 2 years?
was having the same dream for 2 years.
That's a medrash.
No, that's in Chumash. I
No,
believe.
no. That's
Is
a
that
mistake.
medrash?
It says no, it's a medrash. It's my attitude towards midrashim is what Rambam said, which is that simple people believe every one of them, and
Right.
skeptics say they're all phony. And the man of discernment says there's deep meaning hidden in them, and to find what the spiritual deeper meaning is. That's the path I try to take. But you can't read 2 years. He was dreaming for 2 years from the text. It's just says Pharaoh dreamed. That's all.
It's interesting because that Chabad makes that claim on their website.
Because the Chabad, the hard line Chabad is every medrash is true. You know, Moshe was 15 feet tall and he jumped 200 feet straight up in the air and killed Og by smacking his ankle. You know, there are so much of the medrash is hallucinatory. I mean, it couldn't possibly be literally true. So
Well,
I'm not a hard liner, but on the official Chabad site, they take the hard line.
No,
Because that
medrash
way
is
they won't
definitely
offend anybody.
right. Medrash is definitely rabbinic lessons, and I don't believe the rabbis intended them to be taken literally either.
Literally, yeah,
you on
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
But even in terms of a Chabad lesson, the idea that they're trying to teach that he dreamed for 2 years until a Jew came along, I think that's interesting. Chabad believes that, and that what they're saying basically, and I have another example of this, is that and this goes back to what I was saying before, that the Jews take action, and I think this is part of the problem that we have with any society that we enter. We're people of action. I used to have a housekeeper who wasn't Jewish who said, grass doesn't grow under your feet. And what she didn't understand is I'm a Jew, and we're totally trying to create and recreate the world around us. That's the nature of our that's the nature
She
of our
said, what did
culture.
she say? Grass doesn't what?
Grass doesn't grow under your feet. Have you ever heard that expression?
Never did.
No, what
Something
that
new
means,
every day.
that means you don't sit around. It means you are constantly on the go and you're constantly being active.
Right.
And
A rolling stone gathers no moss.
yeah, basically. It's another interesting observation on Pharaoh's dream is that Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing on the river and the action passes by him, whereas in Joseph's dream, this is kind of interesting, and this I guess you could spend hours discussing. Joseph dreamed that the sheaves, I think, of wheat or corn were being bound. One is an active dream, one is a passive dream, which again hints, and this again is also a Chabad interpretation, that the Jews see the world in an active sense. But I've heard this before, that in Asian cultures, and I can't remember if it was Hinduism or Buddhism, they believe that life is a river, that life passes by you, and that our life is nothing but a dream. We see the world passing by us, and yet the Jew, of course, believes that there is a destiny in life, that it is up to us to take an active role in life and to create a better world. It's a very different culture, and this may be also an issue of what why we grate on the societies that we are a part of. But also, I'm not going to go over, the whole story of us in Egypt, because all you guys know it. We know about a new king arose over Egypt. That king did not know Joseph, and the rabbinic questions of who was that king? What does it mean that they didn't know us anymore? I like to relate that to President Biden, who does know us. He's from the old-fashioned traditional Democrats who support Israel. But what's going to happen when today's college students become presidents and senators and representatives? They will not know us because of what they've been taught in college. And that could be a very similar descent into chaos that we experienced in Egypt.
Bob,
Yeah.
I don't understand where you get the information about Biden, because from what I have heard and understand, in virtually ever since he was a senator, virtually every time he voted, he was voting against the Israelis. Now, a lot of Democrats did that. The biggest supporters of Israel have been the Republicans. I'm not American, so I'm not privy to all the little, but I don't know. I've never thought of Biden as pro-Israel at all.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of person he was then, and also the currents of opinions from his fellow Democrats and who pushed him which way in that. But now as president, and it's interesting because he's being pushed farther to the left and anti-Israel by many of his advisors, and yet over the last few weeks, he has on his own released a great deal of money to Israel and has been pretty steadfast in his support of Israel as president. So I can't answer the question. I don't know what was in his mind. I don't know his development as a person, but I just see that now he seems to be pretty strong in holding firm in his support of Israel. And he does every so often say, we should be careful with civilians and all the stuff he's supposed to say, but he's been pretty good, especially among world leaders. So I can't answer about who he was, except that about who he is. But anyway, I like, Lev, you have the questions, maybe you sent them out, that we could discuss a little bit about what is our relationship to Egypt right now, what's going on in America, and what kind of
that's agenda that you sent out. You just follow your agenda, Bob.
Yeah, what kind of active, I don't have it on my phone, maybe you have it in front of you. Some of the questions, what active role can we take? Do you have the questions there, Lev?
I don't have a problem. Do you guys have Bob's email? I see. I can check it now. I'll tell you.
I've got it, but I've got too much of a headache to read.
He has got COVID. Guys, Jonathan have COVID, so please you put your masks on.
Yeah, right. We don't want the internet. We don't want him going viral on the internet.
I'm just reading from email. Bob sent. Lev, let's try a new format. I will speak briefly on Jews in foreign lands in reference to Egypt. Blah 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 blah. Next, we can need questions. What can we do to improve the education of the Jews in reference to the history of the Middle East? What's being taught in Hebrew school? What danger does American society pose for the Jews? How should Jews react to society hate? What does our society focus obsessively on the Jews? Should we actively push back against this? Why does television and social media discuss falsehood with little regard to the facts? Example statements as a refugee camps in Gaza. Refugee from what? What do you predict will be the course of America over the next 2 generations? And will the Jews start to live by then? So that's
we can break it down. Yeah, we can break that down in just 2 questions because we don't have a lot of time. One is, how do we improve the education of Jews as to what's going on? Because a lot of Jews are not supportive of Israel, especially the young. And what can we do about social media and what it's teaching these young people? Which is basically one and the same thing.
My only suggestion to that could be only in 2 words: get out.
Could be the answer. You might be right. I've been watching CNN this week, and Reuben, you might be interested, especially in this, that I have been just so taken aback at the endless, in-your-face anti-Semitism that's been pouring out of CNN. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Well, why are you
You know,
surprised, Bob? Are you
Yeah,
surprised?
well, they're sucking up to their leftist base. That's what the leftists, it's interesting. Israeli, I just saw that Israel, 87% of Israelis have a favorable view of Biden, but the young leftists dislike Biden. They think he's too friendly to Israel, and he needs to be harder on them to let those nice, beloved Palestinians off the hook, so.
Let's have Brad. Brad, we don't see you. Brad and Bob. Bob hasn't. Bob last time made some comments, but Brad made a good comment. He said, I overwhelmed the conversation and speak too much. Don't let anybody else speak. So Howard made comments. So Brad, Bob, and Howard, what do you have to add what Bob said? So I'm going to shut up and listen to you guys to make it fair, more balanced. Depends on the context.
Well, I'll say a few things. What I've been reading here is that on Biden, first of all, Biden really isn't running the White House. There is his whole group of people, they call it the Joe Obama regime, and it's running the White House. Now, on the outside, it appears that he's pro-Israel, but in reality, what's been happening, he's been doing a lot of things to restrict Israel. And he hasn't been really good for Israel. Israel should have more of their own manufacturing of ammunition and stuff, and we don't have it here. So we're getting it from America, and the American stuff. First of all, America's running out, and which is a real problem for America. And it's coming here with conditions. It's not just coming here as we need it. And if you're sitting there dropping 250 targets a day, now, 11 or 12 weeks now, it's an awful lot of munitions. So it's coming from America, but it's coming with conditions. And I've just noticed that they're releasing a lot of the Chayalim now, the reservists. They're being released and let go. And a lot of the cities now, where they've had security on that's gone. And now they're talking about Jordan coming in from the Jordan direction as possible. And of course, what's going on in the north. So I don't trust the American embassy, not embassy, the American White House government at all. I don't trust.
Well said.
You can look at, in fact, now I'm a guy who reads something called, I recommend this to everybody, it's called the Philadelphia Trumpet or The Trumpet. It's a magazine. It's done by the evangelicals, very, very pro-Israel. And they look at current events. They give you facts, data, information, charts, graphs. And then they tie it to biblical prophecy. And it doesn't look good.
Wow. Well said, Brad. Howard, as a dentist, what would you add to that?
Biden's a moron. He has no working brain cells, and he's surrounded by sycophants and preceding presidents like Obama and others are controlling what's going on, and his vice president is worse. So I'm not sure who's really running the country now, but it isn't Joe Biden.
Well said, Howard. I can see if I go, that's why I mentioned Howard is a dentist. I can now tell if I'm a patient going to him, he probably wouldn't give me any Novocaine.
He wouldn't know where your mouth is.
No, I'm talking about you. You start drilling right then. Well said. I like what you said, Howard. No Novocaine.
No, I know where the mouth is, and I also know that I have to sign out because I have a funeral to go to. So, unfortunately, it's a Jewish guy who moved here, has no relatives here in Cleveland, and just passed away. So, So the shul has tried to put together enough guys to attend the funeral to have a minyan.
He was our gabbai in our shul. And he has no family here at all.
Who? Do I know him, Bob?
Anthony, what's his last name? Howard?
Oh,
Anthony was his first name.
Was it
What was
past
his
my
last
time?
name?
I don't know I don't remember what his last name.
Well, he wasn't from Ariel. We're talking about Chabad of North Fulton and John's
I'm
No,
sorry.
no,
Oh,
it's
I
not
thought
him.
Ariel. Right, okay. Oh, yeah.
No, there's more than one Anthony. There's a couple.
Yeah, it's not the Anthony who was the gabbai.
No, he
Right.
was this guy was the assistant gabbai.
Well, I don't think so, but
Oh, well,
I'm not sure.
well, our condolences, our hearts are with him, of course. Bob, what do you say? For what the Queens crew and Brooklyn Queens crew said about it?
So we're in New Rochelle actually. So um, I'm looking forward to trying the pistachio nuts in Tehran. I'm waiting for the 2-year prediction that you made.
Within 2 years, less than 2.
So that's the only thing I'm able to contribute to the discussion. Looking forward. I like pistachio nuts. We make nice pistachio nuts here in America. There are a lot of crazy nuts but anyway.
Come home to the group. Sorry, gotta go.
Ronald Wolf says there's 3 kinds of people who listen to Lev. There's the simple people who believe everything he says, and then then there's the skeptics who don't believe anything he says, and then there's the people who try to see the deep hidden meanings and subtleties and sarcasm.
The only 2 cents I could share with you is so we're suffering, we're all suffering, but if you look at so yesterday's Aliyah, so Moshe's mother Yocheved has to take a 3-month-old baby and put it into a little boat and send it off into the river. Can you imagine the tsar of the families that were in that time? Must be today we have Moshe appearing with before God at a sneh at a thorn bush. So he must have been very confused and very taken aback. These are real people, and the Torah tries to show us their feelings, their emotions, their faults, and their goodnesses. And you gotta realize that this is what life is. This is are there solutions to Iran? I don't know. Is this really something that's gonna affect our long range goals? I don't know if I mentioned that Rabbi Tarragon was our scholar, and Moshe Tarragon from Gush was our resident scholar here in New Rochelle a few weeks ago. And one of his talks, he spoke at a number of places. One of his talks was that the Jews have succeeded in converting the world to monotheists in general. You have the Muslims are monotheists, you have the Christians are monotheists. There are still things that Mashiach will be able to accomplish, but in general, the pagans are gone from his world. So just a thought that he related to us. Unfortunately, I can't embellish the way he explains, but those are my 2 cents for today.
Excellent.
So,
Oh,
Bob,
nice connection to Torah. Yes. Go ahead, Bob.
It's such a good world, and we've converted everyone to monotheism. Pagans are gone. How come there's so much atheism and anti-Semitism in America? And you believe that our grandchildren will not be living here?
Of course, they will be here. That's why, we have a 4-bedroom apartment.
Bob, do you think your grandchildren will be living in America?
Mine
Yeah, yours.
will. God
You
willing.
think so? You think that it'll
I
still?
have, I have, I have one who has 1 foot, three quarters of his foot there, and 1/4 is here, only by his parents' choice. The others many will, many won't, many won't. We know from our own families that most won't, and some will. At least in my family, most won't.
You don't think that two generations of presidents from now will be so anti-Israel and will be so woke that the Jews won't be comfortable here anymore?
I prefer thinking that these are the end of days, and that this is what the rabbis like to say. You wouldn't want to be alive at the end of days, because things are going to be so yucky and awful that we'll be discussing who's going to be left. Certainly, the Holocaust was an appropriate time for end of days to be happening, because that was really horrible. So 6 million dying and destroyed. We're not suffering that at the moment, except on October 7th, we got a taste of that. But those tastes of Holocausts, of Khurban, Bayit Rishon, Bayit Sheni, these tastes are. Why would God give us this taste of horror? Do we need this? Do we need this? I don't know.
Well, I know, like, every time I speak to my family, for example, they always, like, I say, my family, I'm considered too extreme, and I probably am. And I always tell them, listen, the Pew report, which I believe has the surveys, I see Robin just sending the surveys to us. The Pew report shows that intermarriage rate in 1900s, 1902, 1905 was like 2%. And then now intermarriage is roughly 70%, something like that. So if you just go through calculations, 70% that with a third generation just intermarry, there'll always be Orthodox portion that has a smaller percentage of intermarriage. They still have intermarriage, but not as many. So if you go just numerically expand the rate, imagine, take 5 million Jews and intermarry 70% a year, then find out how many Jews will left. They will be Jewish ethnically, but no longer Jewish. They'll be married to non-Jews and so forth. So that's also happening. So whether it's a silent and quiet assimilate. But when I talk to my family, they say, no, it's always, it's true about everybody else, but not us. In our family, it will never happen. And I think if you talk to most people, even non-observant people in America, Jews, they will say, no, it's not, it's exaggeration. Well, where's statistics coming from? So
I don't think statistically we're shrinking anymore. The number of children that the Orthodox families have are more than making up for the intermarriage, and the statistics of how many Orthodox are in the world and in America are all incorrect. It's far more than the statistics show.
You think
so? We're learning a lot more Torah these days as well, they say.
Yeah, a lot more Torah, but let's say for 5 million Jews in America, Orthodox, how many? 1 million, would you say? 500,000?
Well, most Orthodox Jews will not answer someone who wants to ask them questions.
No, but from a gut feel, from 5 million Jews, I would say less than 1 million.
My gut is there's no less than 1 million Orthodox Jews in America. There's probably close to that many in Brooklyn.
All right, so from a 4 million, Reform and conservative, non-affiliated, if you talk to them, they all have non-Jewish spouses. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but in the 2 or 3 generations, they will not be Jewish.
All of my Orthodox patients, when I was practicing, had 13 kids each.
Oh, so you predict the population of American Jews will increase?
There will come a point to where it will increase when the decrease secular line intersects with the increasing Orthodox line. Then it will
interesting point. Interesting point. Maybe you're right. Jonathan, what do you say? I see you suffering with the is your fever up now still?
Yeah. I've got this massive headache. It's really hard to concentrate.
Is that from the show or from the COVID?
COVID. I'm reading that Harvard President Claudine Gay is resigning this afternoon.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. bringing to an end the shortest presidency in the university's history, according to a person with knowledge of the decision.
How do you
Also
like
reading,
that?
I'm also reading that
Good news. Of course, it depends on context.
a senior Israeli official has disclosed that Israel is preparing for a potential substantial retaliatory response from Hezbollah following the assassination of Salah al-Aruri.
Are we
So
responding or Hezbollah, you're saying?
they're going to respond because
Oh.
we assassinated. And they're talking about include the launching of long-range missiles at targets within central Israel. So after we sign off, wish us luck in Nahariya and central Israel, because we're really concerned about a massive ground invasion, and Hezbollah, trained by the Americans, is just going to take over the north. So we're a little concerned.
We wish you snow, lots of
Well,
snow.
Lev, maybe you're right. We will be able to go to visit Tehran because we'll have invaded and destroyed their government, and we'll be occupying.
See, it's all going this way. I hope it will be okay, Jonathan, of course, for all of our sakes. And let's pray after we sign off. Let's do it. In fact, let's just mentally praying right now that let God protect us as He always has, and let the justice
Amen.
prevail against all these barbarian attacks on Israel.
Amen.
Be good to us. All right, guys, we have a minute and a half for next Tuesday. Bob, thank you so much for your topic. It was very nice. It was good
Well, thank you.
presentation. It was good
Thank you,
feedback.
Bob.
I hope I also listened to Brad's suggestion not to dominate conversation. Maybe instead of 90% domination, I drop it down to 75. So
You're beautiful.
So if you have any ideas, guys, just shoot the email. Maybe Jonathan, for you, we wish you to feel better. So your headache go away. My prediction, in a day and a half, by 5 p.m., you'll be all clear.
Really hoping.
So you get
This is
some
the first
vodka
time
for
you've had
Shabbat.
COVID, John? John, is the first time you've had COVID?
No, it's the second time. But
Oh, he's used to it. He's used to
my
it.
wife only just now brought 3-ply aloe vera Kleenex, so I've already gone through 2 boxes of Kleenex. It's phenomenal.
Feel better. Feel better. Everybody feel better. And for next week, whatever suggestions you have, everybody, Bob, Reuven, Jonathan, Brad, send a suggestion for next Tuesday meeting.
All right, will
Okay.
do. All right, guys.
Shalom,
Shabbat
lehitraot.
Tov and Shabbat Shalom, guys. Nice presentation. Nice topic today. Love you all.
Shabbat
Stay
Shalom.
good. Stay healthy.
All right.